Welcome to Kata Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our comic coffee lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news, the week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi For Me TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Rob Kroese. Rob, welcome. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay, and I'm wallowing in ignorance because I'm of the mind that when I do show prep, it's get a picture up, have the Kickstarter ready to go, and know absolutely nothing about it so that I can ask real questions instead of, made up stuff that we've rehearsed. So everything I ask you, I have no idea. I really am ignorant behind the question.
And I will probably be ignorant too. So that's...
Oh, well, that's going to help a lot.
I'll match ignorance with ignorance. Yes.
So where do you want to start here? You got a couple of projects going on. You got a Kickstarter. You got a convention. I'm going to a convention this weekend. So why don't we start with the convention and talk about what that's about?
Okay. First, I have to say that you have a much more interesting stuff going on in your background than I do. I feel bad. I've been doing some videos and podcasts and stuff, and I have nothing behind me. I'm just in this corner. At least I have one kind of tomato soup colored red wall, but I gotta get some like Frazetta prints or something to put up on my walls. It's
Well, see,
feels very bare.
and I'm actually jealous because I do this out of necessity. This is my room. This is
Yeah.
it. Everything is here.
We
would love
moved
to
into
have
this house about almost a year ago now, and we have basically still nothing on the walls. So, oh well. Yeah. So the con is called BasedCon, and people can learn about it at basedcon.com. And it's basically a sci-fi convention conference, sci-fi and fantasy conference for people who are tired of basically woke stuff and social justice activism kind of spreading its tendrils into everything. So that's the summary.
So this would be a place where you might find the authors who were members of the Sad Puppies group, so called.
Yeah, we have. I'm trying to think of if we have any people who are. I mean, definitely people like me who are sort of Sad Puppies adjacent, and who were kind of came late to that scene. And there's a lot of us who were sympathetic, but not necessarily directly involved. But yeah, that crowd, and similar to that, we have kind of it's a broad range of interests and backgrounds. It's just there's not any one viewpoint that we're pushing. We just want to have a sci-fi con that was actually fun and where people could talk without fear of being canceled for wrongthink and that sort of thing. So and we've done it twice now. We did the first one last year in the middle of September, and then this year's we just finished up. I lose track of the days. I think it was like 2 weeks ago now, end of September here in West Michigan. And we started very small. We started the first year we had, when I had no idea what I was doing. And I decided, let's just throw this thing together and see what happens. And basically we needed 30 people to cover the cost of the venue. I rented basically an Airbnb if I had 30 people, I was going to be good, because I basically put this on my credit card and kind of a leap of faith and like hope enough money comes in. So we hit 30 people, and then we hit 40, and we hit 50. I finally closed the registrations at 75 people the first year. And it was a blast. It was great. A lot of fun. And it went so well. The next, this year, the one that we just finished, we had it in the same place. And I think we had a few last minute cancellations there's a lot of just travel things going on right now. So, but we still ended up with something like 85 people. So a 20% increase over the first year. And I expect the next year to be at least that much more. So 100 or more people the next one. So it's definitely a very small con at this point, but everybody had a blast. The first year went really well, as I said, and the second year I think just blew the first one away. It was that much better. It was just fantastic, and everybody had a great time. Even I had at the second one, since I knew kind of what I was doing, I even enjoyed the second one. The first one was good, but I felt like I was on the verge of having a heart attack the whole time, because I was just
running around and run everything.
Yeah, trying to make sure everybody was fed and had a place to sleep, and all the panels were on time, and the AV equipment was working and stuff, and so it was much smoother the second time around, and it was really a lot of fun.
Small cons are nice, though. I mean, it's you get to spend more time with the guests and get to know them a little bit better than you could just, standing in line with your stack of books and spending the 3 minutes that you get to talk to them, ask your one question. And then
it's really cool, because we didn't have really like a separate author room or merch. Well, we have a merchandise room where we basically just threw everything out on a table. People brought stuff and laid it out on the table, and with like payment instructions, pay cash or PayPal or whatever. And then it wasn't like this kind of structured thing where you'd have an author sitting behind a table and people, like you said, would file up or wait in line or whatever. You would just find the author, at dinner or whatever, and just talk to them. And it was great. We had John Carmack, who is kind of a legend in like 3 or 4 different fields now, showed up. It's kind of a last minute addition to our to the program. He's I mean, he was the guy who behind the development of the the video game Doom, and he's big into artificial intelligence and programming stuff, and has his own aerospace company. And I mean, the guy is he's brilliant, and like people were blown away that we got him to come. I say we got him. I mean, the guy, he just kind of said, hey. Yeah, he just I'm interested in coming, and I said, yeah, absolutely, let me put you on some panels and stuff. And he was great. He talked so it was just people hanging out talking to this legendary figure and a bunch of other really successful award-winning authors and stuff. Just very casual atmosphere, just chilling and talking and smoking cigars and drinking and whatnot.
The good life. Is it always always there in Western Michigan in Norton Shores?
The first two were there. The first one I had to have kind of nearby where I am. I'm in Grand Rapids, which is about 45 minutes east of there, because, like I said, it was the first time doing this, so there was no way I was going to manage it like in a venue that was far away. So I did it there, and the other thing, the other reason we did it there, the second year was we had a someone tried to shut us down, saying we were, the usual litany of sins. We were, transphobic and misogynistic and racist and sexist and blah 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 and hateful and everything else, which is absolutely has nothing to do. It doesn't even related to what we're. I mean, we talk about sci-fi and we talk about robots and spaceships and stuff. It's like, where are you even getting this stuff? So we had somebody try to shut us.
Same thing to Kitchener.
What's that?
They did the same thing to Kitchener Con, tried to shut it down because they and they're a comic book and sci-fi, anime, all geekdom convention, and they had the temerity to invite Vic Mignogna to be a guest there. Of course, the whole Vic Mignogna story, people trying to shut him down. You're not allowed to have certain guests.
There's certain people, and of course we were a lightning rod for that, because that's all we were, is those kind of guests. And so we had somebody try to shut us down, and they actually emailed the owner of the venue, and the venue owner was just like, basically told them to take a walk. Turned out the venue owner was a big Trump supporter. So he told me, he showed me the email, and he was just like, what's this all about? And so I told him, and he was like, oh, that's ridiculous. And so he was totally on our side. And so we went back to, so I knew what nobody was going to be able to shut us down the second year. And that is a concern when you're doing something like this, because you get these people who are, have nothing better to do. And they know that they can scream the right words. And, if they can make enough noise, they can get somebody to shut you down. And this guy I knew wasn't going to do that, because he wasn't going to play their game. The third one is probably going to be, I'm negotiating with a hotel here in Grand Rapids, because it's getting too big for the venue. So we have other concerns, obviously, with a hotel, but it's also more convenient for people because it's near the airport, and just the logistics and everything else are much simpler doing it at a hotel, which is why they normally do these things at a hotel. So
sure, if you're interested in expanding that into sci-fi adjacent material, more geek culture stuff. I know a lot of people in Michigan who are in the comic book industry.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Very much aligned with the same thinking here. And they're independent because they've pretty much been ostracized from the mainstream for having, conservative ideals and thoughts.
They're more than welcome to come. I would love to kind of expand the con into that area and other areas. So we're anything in kind of the sci-fi, fantasy, gaming, comics sort of realm. It's definitely up our alley.
I know exactly who I'm going to hook you up with after the show tonight.
Excellent. So. Perfect. Good. I love it because I have, I don't have the resources. My marketing campaign is literally my Twitter account. I mean, I just, I floated this idea, a couple of years ago, and got some interest. I started an interest list online, and I email those people, and I talk about it on Twitter. And I don't even really, I have a based con Twitter account, but I don't even really use it yet at this point, because it's, I'm doing this very part-time. So I just manage it from my own Twitter account, and I mention it, a couple times a week, but other than that, I've done zero advertising, or, and so because I don't have the budget and I don't have the infrastructure for it. So, word of mouth is what we've got. So anything that you can do as far as hooking me up with people. Yeah. So if you haven't heard of us, it's not because, or we haven't reached out to you. It's because we have limited resources, and it's not that we don't want you there. It's, we welcome basically everybody. We really are welcoming, as opposed to the people who claim to be tolerant. So.
All right. Well, I will definitely say that I'll hook you up with some people who can help with that. And of course, when you do start promoting next year, we have a website. So, we'd be happy to run your PR piece if you want to announce it.
Good deal.
John, I have no idea what that meant in the closing video previously when we interviewed Mike Barron about the Private American. I wasn't even controlling the mute button. So I was hands off on that one. I had no idea what that means. I'm totally out of the loop on that. Okay, so BasedCon, we'll help you make that a bigger thing as much as we can. I know the people who can help. I'm not that person. I'm just a cog in a wheel. And no, it's not the Polish flag behind him. It's two walls. It's an orange wall and a white wall, and he's in the corner. And
he's saying I have the Polish flag.
Yeah, it looks like the Polish flag behind you there. The
okay. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a beige and a tomato soup color. I don't think that they have that. I don't think that's the Polish flag, but it's just, that's I'm in the corner here. This is my office.
But John, you'd be very interested in BasedCon. I think that would be right up your alley.
We've talked about it a little bit before. John and I have gotten into it a few times online, but he's
who hasn't gotten into it with John?
I'm just going to say it doesn't really separate me from the masses. John has gotten into it with everybody. He likes to poke the bear. So, he's a lot of fun. I went out to see him in California, and he was met his family. It was very nice. Had a nice dinner with them. So yeah,
very cool. So I'm going to transition from BasedCon for right now and move over to the Crosstime Crusade. I almost said Codex Babylon. I'm not sure what to call it because it seems like a multimedia, multi-book kind of venture going on here. So I'm going to need you to walk me through this.
Well, it's mainly a book series because that's what I do. I write books. But there is kind of an added component to this. There's a lot of cool rewards that I throw in that are we have this I forget what I called it, investigative dossier and maps and cool stuff like that, a little Templar sword and everything. And this all revolves around the books. And then there's a sort of a mystery that I can't say too much about right now, but it's what I say it's a real world mystery. So you will be getting clues if you support the Kickstarter. You'll be getting clues as to that you can follow to try to figure out what is. John says the book looks fucking great. Thanks, John.
Is that AI artwork for the background on this? Or
no, it's not. Well, not that I know of. Some of it is like stock images, and other stuff is like images that I put together, or my cover artist put together. So no, I haven't looked into the AI thing. I've been seeing a lot of that around, but I haven't had a chance to really look into it yet. So
yeah, I subscribed to the Midjourney one, and it's impressive when it's impressive, and it's not when it's not.
It does some weird things. I have a friend who's kind of into video advertising and stuff, and he was trying to get it to give him a picture of somebody with an eye patch, and he couldn't. It seemed to either. It would always give him. It would cover both eyes. It would have patches on both eyes, or it would do something else weird to their eyes, or give them goggles or something. It apparently likes symmetry. It doesn't like having something that's only on one side. So he could not get it to give him like a pirate with an eye patch. So it has weird little things like that apparently it can't do or doesn't like to do. So
it has trouble assigning color too, especially when you have more than one. If you say, a girl with red hair in a green dress, you'll very likely get a girl with green hair in a red dress.
Well,
it's weird.
if you've ever dealt with a cover artist, you'll you'll find you'll have much the same problem. So it's like dealing with a human. I'm just if my cover artist is watching, I'm just teasing. But I'm very demanding as far as my covers.
It's got a lot of keyword specific stuff in it, and I'm trying to learn it. I had it draw. I needed a base for a background for a thumbnail for one of my shows, and I said 5 guys sitting around a table having an animated discussion. Now, if you don't tell a specific style, it's supposed to go photorealistic. I did not get photorealistic, and I'm like, why is it drawing? Oh, because the word animated was in there, and it meant something different to the AI.
Right. Yeah.
I also tried to get it to draw me. I was reminiscing on the '89 Batman movie, and I remembered that there was discussion about why wouldn't it have been cool to get Dick Van Dyke as the Joker instead of Jack Nicholson, just because of his facial structure. And I said, well, what would that look like? And I said, imagine Dick Van Dyke as the Joker. And I said it 3 times before I realized I kept getting an error message back because it didn't like the words. If I'd have asked for actor Richard Van Dyke, I could have got it through.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but I know.
And it was okay with Dyke, but it didn't like the Dick part of it.
Well, you know what? It could have blocked both of them.
Yeah.
I think his last name is spelled differently than that, but it might have got both of them. But I think it was definitely keying off of.
It's a good Dutch name, much like Kroese.
Yeah, there you go. Captain Finity is saying time travel. Yes,
indeed. I like to. I like to. The books are So the book. I talked a little bit about the kind of the mystery with the Kickstarter, but it's mainly about the books. I'm planning 3 of them so far, and they're sort of genre bending books, as most of mine are. I like to mix things up, but I do play a lot with time travel in my books. I have this whole series called the Saga of the Iron Dragon, which is basically these people go back in time to Viking Age Europe, and they have to get off the planet again. So they basically have to teach the Vikings how to build a spaceship, which is a difficult process, as you can imagine, because they have the knowledge, but they don't have any of the technology or the people. So then they have this decades long process of getting back into space. So anyway, that was my main time, but I've dealt with time travel in several of my other books too. And it's always kind of a fun challenge to get everything to fit together and have things sort of loop around and play with causation and stuff. So I've been thinking a lot about the Knights Templar, who are these, this medieval organization that was ostensibly formed to protect pilgrims to the Holy Land during the Crusades. And of course, there's this whole conspiracy about them, and there's the whole, the Da Vinci Code stuff and conspiracy theories and all that. So I wanted to play with. I thought it'd be cool to have somebody go back from the present day to the past, and basically have to deal with the Knights Templar. So basically, the scenario is that there's a sort of this cabal of demonic entities in the present day that are threatening civilization, and the only way to stop them is to go back in time to recover this lost manuscript called the Codex Babylon, which is where the title of the first book comes from. And he has to go to the Templars, because the Templars are basically the last ones who had this book, and we don't know what happened to it, but he's got to recover it and bring it back to the present.
So we have a Captain Finity in the chat is a huge time travel fan. If he's the person I think he is, under a new name now. He was a previous captain. He's done some video work on it on his own channel. Has questions about your approach to time travel. And of course, I was going to ask the same thing, because there's different kinds of time travel. There's you go back and you step on the butterfly and the other guy gets elected kind of story. And that's, the question becomes, did you actually change time, or did you make a new timeline that you came back to? When Niven wrote All the Myriad Ways, he talked about this broadening of the bands and trying to return to your exact position where you left. This was multiversal travel rather than time travel, but the same theory applies. You don't necessarily come back to the same timeline that you left.
Yeah.
Yeah, Captain Finney, it was a Sound of Thunder. Then there's the time travel where you went back and you did the thing you went back to do, but that's what caused you to have the present that you had in the first place, and you were
Right.
part of a fate. So what kind of time travel do you ascribe to here?
So for my books, like the Iron Dragon books, I did very much the latter kind of fixed timeline thing, because, like you say, if you veer off of that, you end up, there's really no way around it. You end up in a sort of a multiverse, alternate universe kind of thing, because if you analyze, like if you look at something like Back to the Future, if you look at it too closely, the whole plot falls apart. It doesn't make any sense, because he comes back to the present day, and all this stuff has changed. But then, like, how did he go back? Or why did he go back in the first place if all this stuff has changed? And like, how did it just there's like another Marty McFly out there somewhere who has this,
Well, there's a universe where he's on a milk carton for the rest of for the
Yeah,
next decade.
right. So
never came back.
Never came back. Yeah. And so it gets kind of creepy and weird. And there's a lot of, most time travel movies are like that, like Looper, and then like the Terminator. The original Terminator was so 12 Monkeys is thanks, John, says the Iron Dragon books are the best on the market. The 12 Monkeys is one of my favorites, because everything works out perfectly in the end, as it was always going to do. But the characters at the time feel like they're making free choices. They're doing things of their own free will and doing what makes sense. And it's only after that everything has happened that we and they see, what everything means. So 12 Monkeys is great. The movie, I haven't seen the show, so I don't know about the show, but the movie is actually one of the inspirations for this, because it's the same. The plot structure is very similar, where you have a problem that's facing them in the present day, and they have to basically go back and in 12 Monkeys, they have to go back and get a sample of this virus, so that they can not change the past but save the future, basically. And that's the same idea in this book. So I'm very much a fan of that kind of thing, where things work out the way they're always going to. I've played with that idea a lot, where people make an opposite choice, but then it ends up turning out that causes what they were trying to prevent or whatever. That's a lot of fun. I'm doing kind of less of that, kind of playing with destiny and fate with this one, just because I've done it so much. So it's going to be a little bit more about the adventure itself, rather than sort of the paradoxes of time travel.
Yeah, it does sort of raise up a lot of interesting questions when you take that time travel approach, as to the existence of free will, because if the past is immutable and everything you do ends up creating the present you left, then the future has to be as equally immutable.
Everything ends up being very determined, and then so it's fun to play with that, to tease people with the idea that, oh no, something different happened. And one of the things I like to do is to you have some things happen that are different than what is known to have happened, but then it turns out that the historical record was wrong, and so you're still having history happen the way that it actually did happen. But of course, our records are not perfect, and so you can play with that as well. But yeah, eventually, if you go to the point where you go back in time and you actually kill Hitler or whatever, and then come back to the present to see what happens, and everything is different, well, you're no longer really playing with time travel. You're playing with alternate universes, which is cool in a way, but it's a whole different thing, and you're no longer really it's kind of cheating as far as time travel. It's not really time travel anymore. It's multiverse travel.
Yeah, they played with that a lot in Quantum Leap, and I think one of the episodes that struck with me was when he jumped into the body of Lee Harvey Oswald, and he kept trying to not shoot Kennedy.
He kept trying to not shoot him.
Yeah,
see, I don't know if I ever saw that one. I did watch that show back in the day, but I don't remember that one.
well, he feels like he failed, and because he ends up because the mind kept taking over. It was this psychotic kind of mind, and he's like, I failed, I didn't do it right, and the hologram Al shows up, says, Sam, don't you remember in the original timeline Jackie was the one who got shot? I was like, well, what kind of fix was that supposed to be?
Okay. Yeah, and so then that gets a little, that's kind of cheating too a little bit, but it's interesting, but yeah, it's this kind of thing where you can't think about it too hard or it doesn't quite work. But
yeah, the one that blew my mind, I was just a little kid, so I don't even remember the name of the movie. I was watching on television as a film there, and it was something from the 60s. The scientists had developed this window in time, and they could walk through it, and when they came back after the adventure and they escaped with their lives barely, they got back to the time, but it was like 5 minutes before they left, and they had to hide around the corner and watch themselves go through the time thing again. And then and it started going into this loop because they tried to prevent it from happening but couldn't, and then the thing explodes, and they come back, they go through, the thing explodes. I was like, they're in hell. This is they're never gonna get out of that.
Yeah, there's some cool there's a movie that's in Spanish, I think, called Time Crimes. It's Chrono Crímenes in Spanish, and it's sort of similar to that, where this guy observes a crime and then I won't spoil it, but it's a similar kind of thing where he's kind of stuck in this loop. Yeah, it can be a lot of fun, but after you've seen that a few dozen times, it's like you start to be like, okay, yeah, I know what's going to happen, because there's only so many things you can do when the future is already determined.
Yeah, I mean, if you're careful with it and you are aware of how things get lost and never return, well, then you're like, hey, somebody stole the Mona Lisa in 1888. We'll say, I'm making that up, obviously. So you go back to 1888 and you sit in the corner and you watch, and the guy steals it. You bonk him on the head and you take it for yourself and you take it home. And then you just look for other things like that. They stayed stolen.
Right.
You got them.
Right. Or like that movie, that Emilio Estevez movie, Free Jack, I think it was called, where he's going to die in a car, he's a race car driver, and he's going to die in this fiery crash. And so what they do is they zap him out of his body out of the car, like the moment before he's going to crash, because they're going to use his body to and then Anthony Hopkins is the bad guy, and they're going to like transplant his brain into Emilio Estevez's body. But it's the same kind of thing. It's like, well, there's no proof that he didn't actually die, because we zapped him out of there like a split second before he was going to die in a fiery crash, and there was going to be no body. So
passengers, they did a whole plane full of people that way. It was a Cheryl Ladd movie.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Yeah, they zapped the entire crew out of a plane and replaced the bodies with corpses.
Okay, yeah.
Right before it crashed.
Yeah,
so that was
don't know that
crazy.
One.
So that was a long time ago, though. It was not great.
Probably not.
Yeah, well,
probably a reason I haven't heard of it, but.
When Cheryl Ladd's, I love Cheryl Ladd in Charlie's Angels. I loved her when she was the singing voice of Melody Valentine on Josie and the Pussycats, her first acting job, for your trivia question of the day.
Wow.
But
yeah, I don't know.
Not a lead movie actor.
Like the acting chops to lead a movie.
So what are the tiers here? I mean, what is the product in this campaign? Because
the main thing is the books themselves, and then there's this kind of mystery that goes along with them, and then there's a lot of sort of collateral accoutrement that go with it. So of course we start with the ebooks and the paperbacks and signed books, signed hardcovers. And then toward the end, and then we got some other stuff that I throw in there. And I also have some add-ons, an audiobook library, and then a library of physical books, paperbacks, mostly by other based authors, is what I call it. These are mostly leftover books that people brought to BasedCon and said, they didn't sell them there. And they said, do you want to keep these here for me? And I said, that's fine. I'll throw them in my garage. And then I thought, hey, what I could do is sell some of these books it's part of the Kickstarter, and the
make them
authors
some
were
money.
like, sure, why not? Let's do it. And so I lumped a bunch of these books together, and we're selling them as a $100 add-on. And I just added a few more books to that. And so it's a really, really good deal for those hardcover, or not hardcover, hard copy books is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Now,
Codex is a hardcover though, right? Codex Babylon.
It's going to be Kindle, paperback, and hardcover, and eventually an audio book. So I do that with basically all my books. It'll be available these days. I do them. They're all available in every format that I can publish them in. And then toward the end there, we've got the really high rewards, and you actually get to, I included, this is called Synergy, Marketing Synergy. I included a trip to BasedCon where you can actually meet me and other authors and hang out, and you can tell me what I got wrong in my time travel and stuff.
Because there's always that guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I love Captain Infinity, and I love watching his shows about this, but he talks about only 20% of the writers get it right. I'm like, it doesn't exist. How can you get it right?
Yeah, I have this argument with people too, where like I say, there are good time travel stories and there are bad time travel stories. And I think that's probably about right, 20%. And people say, I have people say, no, probably, if anything, it's high. People say, no, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't exist. It's I say, well, there's a difference between things that don't exist and things that are logically impossible. You can't go back in time and change the past and come to the present and then have things be different and then, contradict what the reason that you went back in time in the first place, because then you didn't go back in time, and it causes it's a paradox. It doesn't make any sense. So there's a difference between things that we have no evidence that time travel exists, but it could exist and make sense. It absolutely can be simple, elegant, and logical. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. And it's a lot of fun from a narrative perspective, playing with that. Because it's such a cool, with tying together the loops and the causation and making everything happen. Because this is very much time travel in a way, is very much writing a novel is very much like time travel, because you have an idea in your head of where you want things to go, and sometimes you'll write things out of order, and you want things to get to that point. So you're already kind of doing time travel as a storyteller, because you're playing with the past, the present, and the future all at once, and you need to have these things come together into a story. So to add time travel on top of that is just making it a little bit more complex version of the same thing, which is it's just another way of playing with narrative, and it's a lot of fun. So done right. I'm trying to think of other examples. Well, the Time Machine obviously is done right, because it doesn't really affect anything. He just goes back and forward and back, and then he goes into the future. There's a few other examples. The original Terminator, I think, was logically consistent. And I'm sure there's other ones. Primer, I have no idea. Primer is this weird kind of indie movie that is so complex and has so many loops, time travel within time travel within time travel, that I've watched it, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times, and I can't follow it. I get about halfway through and I'm like, nope, I've lost the thread again. I can't. I guess there are people who understand it, or at least have mapped it out, but I don't get it. I assume it probably makes sense.
That kind of reminds me of Jack Chalker's The Wonderland Gambit, only it was with AI. And, the guy had developed an AI and then thrown his mind into it, and they had to go in and get him out. But while he was in the AI, which was a simulation of the real world, he invented AI and the simulation, and threw himself into it. And while he was in there, he invented AI. And I was like, oh, my God. And this team of people, they keep losing their memory as they go through each one. And the only way to get to the next level is to die, or kill the other people. So if you kill one of them, you go with your memories. The other guy goes without memories. It's crazy set of rules there.
And it can be fun to play with that kind of stuff. Like Primer is a fun movie to watch, but it's just like you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm just going to have to go with it, because I no longer can follow what exactly is happening. I just know it's very weird.
Stop trying to make it make sense and just, eat the popcorn. Captain Finity, put your
Yeah.
Twitter DM in here, and then sci-fi writers will be able to find you and judge your time travel essay, so that they can reach out to you. So this is a Kickstarter. Did I say Kickstarter and mean it? Yes, it is a Kickstarter, and I did mean Kickstarter this time.
Yes.
I interchange the two major platforms all the time because
Kickstarter is kind of a generic name, but this is a Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's like Xerox now,
right?
But this is the first time I've seen one that's going to be released in phases, because you've got the opportunity to buy all 3 books, and one will come out in March, one in July, one in November. Is that how you're going to fulfill in phases, or are you actually going to, if they buy 3, you'll wait for the 3 and then send?
Yeah, no, I send them out pretty much as I finish them. I'm pretty much, I'm my own publisher, so I handle all of that. And so I can get them out pretty quickly. And I send them out usually 2 weeks before they're available on Amazon or anywhere else. So like the ebook will be out 2 weeks before it's available on Kindle. The paperback will be out 2 weeks before that the paperbacks are available on Amazon. And yeah, that works pretty well for me. I've done this a few times. I've done Kickstarters for single books, single projects, but I find that this works really well, because then this way I can do one Kickstarter a year or so, maybe a year and a half. I do a Kickstarter, and then I fulfill that Kickstarter over the course of the next year or so. And it works well for me, and people seem to like it, because it's kind of cool, because you sign up, you pledge for this thing, and then over the course of the next year, you get gradual, occasional, depending on what level you're at, you get occasional packages from me. You get a book, or you get a map, or you get,
it's almost like a subscription.
Yeah. And so it's kind of cool, because over a year and a half, you just get kind of these cool little surprises in the mail or in your email or whatever and stuff. And this one, I'm really trying to have fun with it, as far as the whole mystery and clues, sending people clues and that kind of thing. And again, I don't want to get too much in the detail on that, but it's going to be a lot of fun, because especially
I need the details.
At the higher, well, you have to sign up for the Kickstarters. That's the thing. You have to find out what you have to sign up for it to know what it is. But yeah, so I'll be sending out maps and clues and puzzles and that kind of thing, and people will be able to solve
like in their emails.
And in some cases physical mail, and possibly other ways as well.
Yeah, there was a game, a video game, and I can't remember the name of it. And it was years and years ago, but it was one of these things where it wasn't just the video game, because you couldn't sit down and just speed run it. You could play it till it stopped, and then you had to stop, and then you'd get a phone call, or you'd get an email or a text, and you'd have instructions to call a number. It was like, this is just a little bit too intrusive for my like.
Yeah, mine's. I'm probably not going to be calling people or anything, but yeah, there's a whole genre of these alternate reality games where people will there be a treasure map where I could literally go dig up treasure. There might be, John. I can't promise you that, but I might actually have you dig something up. But it's that kind of thing. Like there might be things that you have to find, that are physical things that you have to find somewhere, and then report back, that kind of stuff.
What do they call that? Geocaching?
There's an element of that too. Yeah, where you have to find people, hide things, and then you go find them by the coordinates or whatever. So yeah,
I've never done that, but it sounds all kinds of fun.
Yeah. And then it would be sort of a cooperative thing as people, get further into the mystery to work with other people who are solving other aspects of the mystery and stuff. So that's going to happen in tandem with the books. So as the books get released, and then there's going to be things in the books that you learn that will help you solve the mystery. Or you can just read. You don't have to have do anything with the mystery if you don't want to. You can just read the books.
So are the books an extension of Iron Dragon, or?
No, it's a completely separate series. Iron Dragon is basically done. There's five books in that series. I easily could have made it 10 or longer, because that covers so much ground, but I tend to write very kind of sparsely and very action driven books. So it's very plot driven. So it's there's a lot of stuff that happens in the course of those 5 books. I'm not like one of these authors who will milk a concept for everything that it has, because I get bored and I want to move on. So I like to go in and have fun with an idea and milk it quickly and get everything out of it and then move on to another thing. I usually spend I spend a year or two on each series, and then by that time I'm like, okay, I'm done with Templars and I or time travel or whatever, and I want to go. I have an idea for a series about, well, I have a couple of ideas. I always have ideas in the back of my head, but like a series about reincarnation. And there's one about, I had this idea the other day about transplanting Earth civilizations to an alien planet and having them like fight it out for that planet. I thought that would be a cool idea. But so like, I always have these ideas that are going in the back of my head. And so part of my brain is like, I'm working on Cross Time Crusade now, but part of my brain is like kind of turning over these other ideas. And so I'm, in a year or two, I'll be very much ready to move on probably to the next thing.
Yeah, it's if you go into a book series trying to be the next Robert Jordan, you kind of go out.
I wasn't going to mention Robert Jordan by name, but yeah, that's not my. I mean, I honestly don't have the discipline to do that, to force myself to write that much on any one series, which is probably bad. This is one of the reasons why my author website is badnovelist.com, because as soon as I get going with one series or genre, I switch to something completely different because it's interesting to me, and I get bored with one thing and I want to move. I'm like, I want to write a book about quantum physics now. Now I'm done with that. I want to write a book about Vikings. I'm done with that. Now I want to move on to, Templars or whatever. And so I do okay as far as book sales and stuff, but I would be a lot more successful if I didn't keep changing everything up. But I have a core audience that enjoys the challenge, so it's cool.
So you don't have any one character that you would look to launch into a franchise. You don't have your own James Bond or Harry Potter.
I have a couple of pretty well-defined, I would say well-liked characters, but they're not characters that I necessarily feel like they're like my signature character. I have this angel. My first books were the Mercury books, and they're about this angel named Mercury, who's this sort of wisecracking, anti-authoritarian angel, who's supposed to be, he's supposed to be involved with the apocalypse in one way or another, but he's kind of bored and gets distracted and does other things. And so he kind of stumbles his way through 5 books. That was a lot of fun to write. But when I was done with that, I was done. I said, I put that series aside. I have another series called it's the Starship Grifters series with a character named Rex Nielo, who is this kind of interstellar con man, who's a lot of fun to write. But again, that was one where it's like, maybe I've written enough of those, and I'll do something else. So because I like to challenge myself. And if you're writing the same character, all the time, it ends up, you kind of get into a rut and it gets less interesting. Even if you're, the quality, even if you can maintain the quality, it's still less of a challenge to do that. So I like to do.
And what happens is that most people don't maintain the quality. And then you've got this great character with all these great stories, and he's remembered for how he went out.
Yeah. And I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, I've never had the level of like financial success where I've had like this one huge character where, it's kind of like the pop star who has the one song that they have to play at every concert, and by the 5,000th time they're so sick of it. I don't have that problem because I have a lot of relatively successful books but no like one thing where people are like, like say the line, Bart. I don't have that, so I'm grateful for that. I get to kind of play around and do different things.
I'm seeing Neil Stephenson.
So those are the 3 main influences I say for this series: Umberto Eco, Foucault's Pendulum, and The Name of the Rose, and then Snow Crash. and then 12 Monkeys, kind of all sort of elements of all those that went into this series.
You've got some original artwork here as a poster.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the cover?
Yeah, that's the cover. Yeah, it's the cover without the artwork or without the titling on it. And the guy's name is Xevious, and I can't remember his actual name. It's
Xeviuss. Yeah, I've had him on the show.
Guy.
I know the guy.
Oh, okay,
comic
cool.
book covers.
Yeah, he's great. I saw some of his stuff online, and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. This guy would be great for the cover. So yeah, he's yeah, so he did that cover for me, and I drove him crazy, as I always do. But we ended up with a really great result. He's different because a lot of artists these days work totally or almost totally digitally. He's very old school as far as he was like, I kept telling him, can you change this? Can you tweak this? And I realized that a couple weeks into this, he was physically painting all these changes that I was asking for him. And I was like, holy crap, dude. I was like, I had no idea. I thought you were
doing an undo. Take the layer off.
Right. I thought you were manipulating layers in Photoshop. And it's like, he sends it over to me and it's like just basically one layer with a few things on top of it. I was like, holy cow, I had no idea you were doing this much work. But it shows. He does great work.
You've got some add-ons here, and you mentioned that you've got all these books from the different authors who
those are that's the audiobook library I'm giving away. Or as part of the that add-on, you get a whole bunch of these audiobooks, and part of that is the idea is the money for that add-on is going to go toward recording these books as well. So you'll get all those books, and then also the Cross Time Crusade books. So that's a really good deal. $100 for all those books and this series. And then I think if you scroll,
I love the title. I love that title, Schrodinger's Gat. It's either loaded or not. You can't check until you pull the trigger.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's basically that was my quantum physics noir thriller book, where that's basically the idea of it. You don't know if the gun is loaded or not. Yep. And that's the based authors package with all
look at this.
Bunch of stuff by me and a bunch of what do we got in there? Fenton Wood and Travis Corcoran, and I can't read it, but we had a few. I forget who else we've got in there.
Will Ferrell and Elf. Santa's coming. I know him.
And
on the show frequently.
Yeah, and we got and some leftover based con stuff. When you for a small con, it's hard to. Well, you have to order these things in certain quantities. Sure. And I knew I wasn't going to sell them all because we don't have that many people. So I've got all these tote bags and mugs and stuff left over. And I thought, well, again, let's give these away as part of the Kickstarter. Why not?
All right. I never had to read Risks and Challenges because nobody does. I don't even think anybody ever changes the base text off of those things.
Risks and Challenges. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of silly at this point because I've had, I think 10 or 11 Kickstarters and I've fulfilled them all. So it's kind of like, and like literally the last Kickstarter, my last series, Mammon, I broke both of my wrists in a motorcycle accident halfway through, and I still delivered on time. So unless I die, this thing is getting fulfilled. I mean, I could, unless I have some kind of debilitating, serious, like I don't know, something, a rock falls on me or something. It's going to get fulfilled. So.
What risk do we have? The number 17 bus.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I rode my motorcycle into an SUV. So, turned in front of me as I was going through a light that was turning, it was yellow, turning red, and she didn't see me, turned right in front of me, and bam, I was on the ground. And I had surgery on both my wrists. I've got a 3 centimeter screw in this one, and then a slightly smaller one in this one. And that was almost a year ago now, and I'm pretty much back to normal. But yeah, I was typing like, could barely move my hands. So
one Chevy van made Stephen King a much more prolific writer.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I do notice as I scroll back here and try to wrap things up, in Iron Dragon you had Loki. And in Codex Babylon, you have, or not Codex Babylon, but the Cross Time Crusade. You have Grail. You're fond of acronyms.
I do like acronyms. Yeah, I do. That's something that comes up in almost every one of my books. I have something that's even the Mammon series too. I had acronyms too because it's the kind of weird obsessions for me. Oh, here's my cat.
Well, I was going to say we have a cat.
This is my daughter's cat. Thanks. I'm surprised that she didn't jump up here before now. She'll show you her butthole pretty soon.
We got to give cats full screen.
She's a nice kitty. She's gonna check things out on my desk and then come back around here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to have the acronyms and secretive organizations and stuff. I've had a lot of fun with that. Naming these,
It's good to have a well-named acronym. They work. I had a military contractor background, so we knew our TLAs, which were 3-letter acronyms, and we knew our XTLAs, which were extended 3-letter acronyms, because some of them weren't three letters long.
So you had yes.
But again, using them, I'm taken back to Jack Chalker. I guess one of my favorite older writers. His other book he had called God Incorporated. And God was G.O.D., and I have no idea what it stood for. But it was another series of something's going on in that company that's not quite right kind of things.
I should make a list of all the acronyms that I've done through all of my books, because I had some pretty funny ones. So I do this to amuse myself, come up with these things. And they're no worse than like NASA's acronyms. So like you look at the stuff that they come up with that are like you're really working at just trying to come up with an acronym there,
stretching it out there. My favorite is ACHOO, which is the medical terminology for people who, like me, can look at the sun and sneeze.
Okay. That's awesome. I didn't know about that.
It pulls the lens on the eye, which pulls on the sinus, which causes a person to sneeze. And it's ATCHOOO.
That's funny.
And it's a very tortured medical algorithm, but
that's funny because I actually have, that's an acronym that I used as well in one of my books, in one of the Mercury, I think it was the second Mercury book. And I have no idea. It's something about Anaheim, because there's this part of the story takes place in Anaheim. So it's this Anaheim something headquarters. I don't remember. So yeah, but I chew.
Captain Finney says his comic has
Assassination Association. That's pretty good.
When you gotta have somebody assassinate an assassin, there you go.
Assassinating the assassins.
I've got to watch this because my time travel is impossible anyway. It's not impossible because we're all traveling at 1 second per second in a forward direction. We just haven't figured out how to go backward yet.
Right. We're all traveling through time, so clearly it's possible. It's just not practical at this moment.
If somebody is going to invent a time machine, or at least a time sender backer of some sort, they'll just put the instructions in a tachyon stream. So just start monitoring the ether for tachyon streams, and then decode the blueprints, and then build the time machine.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We will. All right, Rob, thank you so much for bringing Based Con and the Cross Time. I keep trying to say Callahan's Cross Time Saloon, totally different book, but the Cross Time Crusade to the channel tonight. And thanks for bringing the kitty.
She's came in here for the end here. So she's a nice kitty. Sometimes she's purring. Sometimes she needs loving. So she's enjoying this.
She'll get it here. Folks in the chat, the link to this Kickstarter is right below the video. It's been there the whole time. You could have been, maybe you did go there. I didn't check the number of backers when we started, and I know Kickstarter self-refreshes, so I may have missed it. Hopefully I did miss it, and it did go up some. You're at 181 backers.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're about this. Yeah, we're over 18,000. My goal is 15, and so we're doing pretty well.
You've done
pretty
very
happy
well
at this point. Looks like we'll break 20.
Who do you use for your printer? If you don't mind.
For printing the books?
Yeah.
Amazon.
Okay. I've used them. I use Ingram Spark now for printing, but
I did use them for a while, and then I went over to CreateSpace, and then CreateSpace got bought by Amazon and converted into folded into their KDP thing. And so I don't know. I probably should look around again at this point, but it's kind of just going with the easiest thing at this point.
Exactly. An ease of use thing. As long as you own the ISBN, that's the important thing. I know so many people go in and just say, yeah, give me the free ISBN. I'm like, oh, you fool. You just let Amazon own your book. But all right, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We do appreciate it. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise without you. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.